This is the parking lot of M Health Fairview Lakes Hospital. It is late on Christmas Day, 2025. From this distance, it looks peaceful, just the snow falling and a security car with its lights flashing. But look closer at the vehicle. There are two figures standing in the cold. One is a security guard. The other is a patient who just walked out of the ER. Notice the contrast. The larger figure isn't wearing a shirt in the middle of a Minnesota winter. He pushes the smaller figure to the ground. What you are seeing right now is not a conversation. It is a homicide. This 35-year-old man, Jonathan Winch, is swinging wildly at the guard. By the time the police car enters this frame, it will be too late. To understand the gravity of what we are looking at, we have to contextualize the date and the location. It is December 25th, 2025, Christmas Day, in Wyoming, Minnesota, the dead of winter. Most of the world is quiet. Families are opening gifts, eating dinner, and winding down. But for the staff at M Health Fairview Lakes Hospital, there is no holiday break. Hospitals don't close. And for the security team, the dangers don't take a day off. The story begins inside the emergency department. We have a 35-year-old male, Jonathan Chet Winch. He is a resident of Chisago City. On this particular night, Winch is not just a standard patient. According to the criminal complaint filed later in Court File 13-CR-25872, Winch is at the hospital under a medical hold. We need to pause here and analyze what a medical hold actually implies. In the context of emergency medicine and law enforcement, a medical hold is not a suggestion. It is a legal determination. It means that medical professionals have assessed this individual and determined that he is currently a danger to himself or a danger to others. Or perhaps he is unable to care for himself due to a mental health crisis or chemical dependency. He has lost the legal right to walk out the front door. He is, for all intents and purposes, in custody for his own safety. But on this Christmas night, the system fails. Winch decides he is leaving. The press release details that officers were dispatched regarding an adult male leaving the emergency department, quote, contrary to a medical hold. This is the first critical failure point in the timeline. A man deemed too unstable to leave walks out. He exits the controlled, warm environment of the hospital and steps into the freezing Minnesota night. This triggers an immediate response. The hospital staff calls 911. The Wyoming Police Department gets the call. They are told that Jonathan Winch is fleeing. The dispatchers relay the information. A 35-year-old male leaving against medical advice, potentially unstable. The police cars start rolling. They are minutes away. But in situations like this, minutes are a lifetime. There is a gap between the moment the suspect walks out the door and the moment the police arrive. This is the danger gap. And standing right in the middle of that gap is Andrea Merrell. Andrea Merrell is 43 years old. She is employed as a security guard at the hospital. On Christmas night, she is likely the only thing standing between an unstable patient and the public. She receives the alert. She knows a patient has eloped. She gets into her M Health Fairview security vehicle and heads toward the parking lot to intercept him. She spots him. She activates her emergency lights. The yellow strobes cut through the darkness and the snow. She pulls up near him. She gets out of her vehicle. She is doing her job. She is trying to contain the situation until the police can get there. She is trying to keep him safe. She has no way of knowing that this act of duty is about to cost her everything. This is where the digital evidence takes over. The press release confirms that an exterior security camera at the hospital captured the incident. This camera is the silent witness to the tragedy. It records the scene in the parking lot moments before law enforcement arrives. If we look at the footage described in the complaint, we see two individuals near the hospital security vehicle. The camera provides a stark, undeniable profile of the suspect. The footage depicts a larger person wearing dark pants and, crucially, no shirt. Think about that detail for a second. It is December in Minnesota. The temperature is likely well below freezing. Yet Jonathan Winch is standing there, shirtless. In forensic psychology and police investigations, this is a massive red flag. This kind of undressing, shedding clothes in freezing weather, can be a sign of many things. It can be a symptom of paradoxical undressing in severe hypothermia, though that usually happens near death. More likely, in a case involving a medical hold, it suggests a state of excited delirium, extreme chemical intoxication, or a severe manic episode. The body overheats, the mind detaches from reality, and the clothes come off. It signals to any observer that this person is not thinking rationally. They are operating on pure, chaotic instinct. Facing this shirtless, larger figure is the smaller framed person, Andrea Merrell. The visual disparity is terrifying. You have a large, agitated male against a smaller female guard. The footage shows the interaction turning into a physical altercation almost instantly. The camera watches as the larger person overpowers the smaller one. Merrell is observed falling to the ground. She is down. She is defenseless. At this point, the threat is neutralized. If Winch was just trying to escape, he could run. He could flee into the darkness. But he doesn't. The footage depicts Winch climbing on top of Merrell. He mounts her while she is lying on the pavement. And then, the violence escalates to a lethal level. The camera captures him appearing to swing or strike at her multiple times. This is the moment the crime shifts. It is no longer an escape attempt. It is no longer a simple assault. It is a brutal, sustained attack on a grounded victim. He strikes her again and again. The silence of the security footage makes it even more haunting. We don't hear the sounds, but we see the motion. The rhythmic, downward strikes of a man who has lost control. While this horror is playing out on the security monitor, the Wyoming police officer is closing in. He arrives on the scene. We can imagine the view from his dash cam. He pulls into the lot and sees the security vehicle, with its lights still activated. The strobe lights are reflecting off the snow, illuminating the scene in flashes. The officer steps out of his patrol car. He assesses the situation immediately. He sees the security guard lying unconscious near the vehicle. She isn't moving. The officer knows instantly that she is in critical condition. And then he spots the suspect. Jonathan Winch is still there. He hasn't fled into the woods. He is wearing those dark-colored sweatpants and no shirt. He is attempting to get into the security vehicle. Is he trying to steal the car? Is he trying to hide? Is he looking for a weapon? The officer doesn't wait to find out. The officer issues a loud, clear verbal command. Get to the ground! In a normal engagement, a suspect faced with a police officer and a drawn weapon will surrender. But Winch is not in a normal state of mind. He ignores the command. He does not comply. He turns his attention to the officer or refuses to stop his actions. The officer escalates force. He deploys his taser. The probes fire. The electrical current hits Winch. But here is another piece of evidence that points to Winch's dangerous physiological state. The taser doesn't stop him immediately. The press release notes that the officer had to deploy his taser multiple times to gain control and compliance. This is rare. A taser override of the central nervous system usually drops a grown man instantly. To fight through that, to require multiple cycles, suggests a pain tolerance and an adrenaline level that is off the charts. It confirms that Winch was operating at a level of intensity that made him a superhuman threat in that moment. Finally, the electricity does its work. Winch goes down. Other officers arrive on the scene to assist. They swarm the suspect. They get the handcuffs on him. Jonathan Winch is taken into custody. But as the handcuffs click shut, the scene transitions from a police standoff to a medical emergency. The officers rush to Andrea Merrell. It is immediately apparent to them that she has suffered severe head trauma. The beating she took was focused and devastating. They call for paramedics. An ambulance rushes her to Regions Hospital in St. Paul, Minnesota. Regions is a level 1 trauma center. It is where you go when you have the worst possible injuries. The doctors there work on her. They try to stabilize her. They treat her head injuries. For 2 days, Andrea Merrell fights for her life. The calendar turns from Christmas Day to December 26th, and then to December 27th. But the damage inflicted by those multiple strikes in the parking lot is too great. On December 27th, 2025, Andrea Merrell succumbs to her injuries and passes away. With her death, the investigation changes. The charges change. The Ramsey County Medical Examiner steps in. They complete an autopsy to make it official. The findings confirm the brutality of the video evidence. The manner of death is determined to be a homicide. The cause of death is identified as traumatic head injuries due to physical assault. Now, the focus shifts to the courtroom. It is December 29th, 2025. Jonathan Winch is brought before the Honorable Bridget E. Dodal for his initial hearing. He is charged with second-degree homicide. The details of the charge are significant. Second-degree murder generally implies intent, but not necessarily premeditation. It fits the evidence, a sudden, explosive encounter in a parking lot that turns lethal. The judge looks at the facts. She looks at the medical hold. She looks at the unprovoked nature of the attack on a uniformed guard. And she sets the bail accordingly. Bail is set at $2 million. It is a number that reflects the severity of the crime and the danger the court believes Winch poses to the public. But there is one final, lingering question. A question that goes back to the shirtless man in the snow and the medical hold. Is Jonathan Winch even mentally competent to understand what he has done? The court orders a competency examination. This is a critical next step. While Winch remains in custody, doctors will evaluate his mental state. They need to determine if he can stand trial. Did he know what he was doing when he walked out of that ER? Did he understand the nature of his actions when he was striking Andrea Merrell? These are the questions that will define the next phase of this case. As we look back at the timeline, the tragedy becomes clear. A system designed to help people, a hospital, a medical hold, a security team, was overwhelmed in a matter of minutes. Andrea Merrell went to work on a holiday to protect people. She saw a man who needed to be stopped for his own safety. She intervened. And because of the cold, unblinking eye of a security camera, we know exactly how she died. We have the timestamp. We have the footage. We have the digital trail of a Christmas night that turned into a nightmare. Criminal charges are not evidence of guilt. A defendant is presumed innocent unless and until proven guilty. But the video evidence, the autopsy report, and the dash cam footage paint a picture that will be very hard for the defense to erase. The flashing lights in the snow were not just a warning. They were the final signal of a life lost in the line of duty.